real hero in a lot of people's eyes, because you came forward at a time and said, I signed an oath, but, you know, it doesn't matter. Come get me. I'm going to tell the truth because people need to know.
I said it, and I'll say it again, and I shared it with Bill downstairs. I believed from the very beginning, and I still hold deep in my heart, that this is the greatest story in human history. This is a story of who we are, how we came to be here, what kind of a species we are, and where we're going. It is the most important issue, in my view, in human history. It's not merely that we're not alone, but we have never been alone. We have had what I have shared many times. We have had an intimate interrelationship with advanced extraterrestrial intelligence from the beginning of human history. And that is dynamite. And I've tried to share what I've learned, and I told Bill earlier, I will tell you what I've seen, what I've learned, and what I've concluded. And this will probably be, I really sincerely believe, that this will be my last interview. So I will share with you things that I strongly believe and strongly hold, that even today, it's the greatest story in human history. It involves who we are. It involves what we are as a species. It involves how we came to be. Now, for many, many years, I held to the view that once we could get this out, many of us who were military would say what we've seen, what we've learned, what we've concluded, experiences we've had personally. And I kept naively thinking, once we get it out, the public is going to clamor for more. Oh, tell us more, tell us more, tell us more. And then the government would respond by opening up and telling the public the truth. Well, forgive me, I certainly have learned my lesson. That didn't happen, and I believe it isn't about to happen, because the story is simply too big. This involves our origins as a species, as a race. I've almost reached the point where I am sympathizing with the government for not telling the truth, and I'm to a point where I sympathize with the government by saying that the masses of people out there probably are not ready for the truth. That the masses of people probably couldn't handle the truth. Because the truth is incredible. It's dynamite. I used an analogy about Pandora's box, and I know you're familiar with the old Greek legend. This alien issue, this extraterrestrial presence issue, is like Pandora's box. You can't open it just a tiny bit. You can't just tiny lift the lid and let just a little bit out. Because if you open the box, boom, everything's going to come out. The masses of people are going to demand more, 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 and more, which I believe they have a right to. But that mass of information and fact is going to be earth-shaking, literally earth-shaking.
Wouldn't you consider yourself something of an ordinary person? I mean, obviously you're fairly extraordinary.
I've always felt of myself as a typical ordinary guy, yeah.
All right. And you handle it. So
not easily.
Not easily, really?
No.
Can you tell me what it was like?
Let me tell you that
when you first
I've been at this
out,
for over 40 years.
Right.
And I first began to get some information of what was involved here. That to me was like a drug addict. You know, I've never taken drugs. Well, I smoke a little, and I drink coffee, and I have a little bourbon now and then. But aside, I've never taken hard drugs.
Right.
But it was almost like an addict. Once I learned, officially, from government documents, what was taking place, what was happening, my God, I couldn't get enough. I couldn't learn enough. I was voracious to get more and more and more and more. And I became a nuisance to my friends. It's a wonder that I was able to retire honorably without ending up in Fort Leavenworth, which is a disciplinary barracks, by the way. It's a prison, military prison. It's amazing that I've gotten to this point in my life without going to jail.
Okay, well, you were highly respected at the time when you discovered this information. Would you say that in your career as a military?
I had been given a cosmic top secret clearance, which was and still is the highest security classification that NATO has.
Okay, but cosmic top secret, did that mean to you that you were going to be let in on the secrets of our, you know, extraterrestrial relations with other planets?
No, it simply meant that I was given access to a military document, a study that NATO conducted from 1961 to 1964. When I got to shape in Paris in 1963, I learned of a study that was underway. I had had a top secret clearance when I arrived, which you had to have to get to that particular assignment. It was a rather choice assignment, by the way. Paris, in those days, took my family. My kids went to high school in Paris. It was a choice assignment, and not everybody got that assignment. You were selected, and you were analyzed, and you had to have so many little pluses in your box to get that.
So, but top secret way back then.
Top secret.
Were you naive? Did you have no idea
No.
when you first came across this information?
I had some suspicions, and I was curious about the extraterrestrial
So you
issue.
had suspicions way back.
Oh,
what
yeah.
is this?
Oh, yeah.
In the 60s.
Well,
you had suspicions.
I went into the Army in 1950.
Right.
And I paid attention, and I used to read a lot. And I always had a nagging suspicion that there was something more going on out there than we were being told.
Did you know about underground bases at that point?
No, not at that time.
Uh-huh.
Now, being exposed to this shape study in 1964 was simply the appetizer for me. It opened my mind to the point that, oh my God, this is real. Not only did I see reports and study analyses and photographs, there were autopsy reports I was able to study, because there had been crashes and retrievals of bodies and all the rest of it.
So how many pages was the report?
Oh, the study itself was about 1.5 inches thick.
Oh, so it's quite like a book.
Yeah, well, it was supplemented, supported by about 10 inches of appendices and, what do they call them, annexes.
Really?
There were 10 of them. So the study had laid out the problem, as any military study will do. It laid out the problem, the purpose and the meaning of the study, and some of the conclusions of the study, and then it referred to the annexes, which were the ones that had all the details.
I see.
For example, there was an annex on retrieval of bodies and autopsies with photographs.
Okay.
So once I got a chance to go through this thing, with my cosmic clearance allowed me access to it in the vault.
At any time you could go back in?
Well, at any time I was on duty in SHOCK. SHAPE is Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers in Europe. SHOCK is the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center. It was the war room.
Okay.
I worked in there regularly. I ran duty rosters. I was a senior NCO at the time. I was a senior master sergeant at the time. And my clearance allowed me, I had a desk in SHOCK. I had a desk in the Operations Center over in the corner. And I ran the duty rosters, and I was in charge of giving assignments and all to all of the lower enlisted men. I even ran a duty roster for the controllers, which were 06 rank, colonels, captains in the Navy, and we were in the middle of a bloody Cold War.
Okay, so it was during the Cold War.
This was in 1960. I arrived in 63.
Right.
The study was completed in 64. The Warsaw Pact and NATO were lined up along divided Europe. We were bristling with arms. We had 50 divisions here. The Soviets and the Warsaw Pact had 100 divisions here. World War III was just moments away.
Okay.
That's how close it was.
So
young
what you're
people like
saying-
yourselves cannot imagine what that would be like.
So this is a serious desk that you've got.
Yeah,
in other words,
yeah.
it's a lot of responsibility.
I worked in the war room. I had access to the vault, and my clearance allowed me there.
So we're in the middle of the what's called the Cold War, and you're reading about our relationships and interactions with alien races.
Well, let me give you some reason, first of all, why the study was concluded. In February of 1961, there was a massive flyover of unidentified objects coming out of the east from the Soviet Warsaw Pact area, flying toward the west, coming over our lines, over NATO lines, over Germany, over France. These objects were very high, very fast, in formation, obviously under intelligent control.
Did you
And they
see
were
this?
circular disc shapes.
Did you see it?
I didn't, no.
Oh. Was it filmed?
I wasn't there in 61.
Was it filmed?
Well, oh yes, we had film of it.
Really?
The
How
point
many
is
of
that
you- how many were
Gordon
there?
Cooper, who I'm sure you're familiar with, one of
Yeah.
our famous astronauts
Yes.
from the old years. Gordon's gone now. But Gordon shared with me one time, and he shared it publicly. He said, when I flew over Germany in the 50s, he says we'd see these things all the time. He says we wondered what they were, because it was obviously they were under intelligent control. They would fly over our lines. They'd come out of the Soviet sector flying west, as I said, over France, Germany, France, England. They'd turn north over the southern coast of England, and then they would disappear off of NATO radar over the Norwegian Sea.
Okay, and you knew, or I assume, the government figured out they weren't Soviet. Is that right?
The government didn't know from the very beginning, at least NATO didn't, what they were. We thought they were Soviets for a time. We learned that the Soviets thought they belonged to us.
Right.
But they were very high, very obviously under intelligent control, in formation, and they would come sometimes en masse. The flyover in February of 61 was a couple of hundred of them. They couldn't count them.
Well,
And they thought,
you're
oh my
telling
God,
me-
World War III started here.
Exactly. Didn't the base at that point aim and shoot?
Everybody got on alert. We didn't have the capability to shoot because they were too high and they were too fast.
Oh.
And in those days, we did not have the aircraft nor the weaponry to deal with this. And they were always obviously under intelligent control.
So this is why the study was put into
The
effect.
study was initiated in 61. I arrived in 63. It was concluded and published in 64. And that, as I said, what's changed my life.
Okay, what was the conclusion?